All right, let's see what we've got going as we start ourselves off in Tol Dagor between Ethical and Perplexed.
Well. Do you expect that we're going to see double Vengeance Demon Hunter, I guess, Dratnos, before we even see it happen?
Yes, I believe we will see at least Ethical playing it. I think that Perplexed probably will as well, but that one is one that I'm less sure about. I'm pretty confident that at least Ethical will be playing that.
So it is Raging Explosive for those who are the uninitiated. So killing explosives is going to be pretty rough, especially if you are on a Vengeance Demon Hunter, because they're not super well known.
So we have the difference. We actually have, again, so Tol Dagor has been our most diverse dungeon here. We have two different comps than even the previous time we were in here, I think, from any teams. So we got the Vengeance Demon Hunter and the Rogue on the side of Ethical, whereas on the side of Perplexed, those are swapped out for the second Hunter and the Protection Warrior from Divine Field. And that makes sense. Divine is a big-time Prot Warrior these days, although originally known for Prot Paladin.
So how I would describe these two compositions is Ethical's comp is far more finesse. Perplexed's comp is far more high-octane damage, I'm going to smork you down kind of comp. So I don't think that either of them are just innately better at the surface. I think that both of them are incredibly good at, but they're going to be looking to play mostly the post-Jess Howlis area in a little bit different ways.
Yeah, both of them have those Death Knights, so they have similar incentives to pull big amounts of trash onto bosses. But Ethical, with access to that Rogue and the Demon Hunter, those are two things that are extremely, extremely good at the cannon section and at manipulating the trash in the rest of the dungeon. So Ethical is going to need to use those to make up the time advantage that they're losing to the Hunter and the Warrior on Perplexed side, which just do more raw damage.
Dude, notably that Hunter, or that Warrior versus Demon Hunter matchup, That Demon Hunter does very little single target and AoE damage.
Yeah, they can go a little bit for offensive corruption if they want to try and do more damage, but Skylark here, in these 21 keys, you're kind of obligated to play at least some versatile. It looks like Skylark is actually full versatile with even an Avoidant in there and an Azoth tank trinket. This is full-on defense turtle Demon Hunter. Does have the Spirit Bomb.
But he is playing... He's playing Spirit Bomb. Okay, so he's played Spirit Bomb during the regular split of matches, so the Spirit Bomb doesn't surprise me as much. In addition to that, he also is still playing that Strength of the Warded Major. Doesn't surprise me all too terribly
That
much.
seems important for threat against the if you're playing with a Death Knight, I think you need that as the Demon Hunter.
I absolutely agree. I mean, Divine is probably also... Yeah, Divine's also playing Strength of the Ward. I think just generally, if you're playing with the Death Knight, you have to have it, right?
Yeah, I mean, for Prot Warriors, the combination of Strength of the Ward and Miraculous Fang is something they just want to run anyways for damage.
True.
Whereas for the Demon Hunter, it's usually a loss to be playing the Strength Major.
All right, so this is the difference in comps that I was talking about. Perplexed ends up killing Sand Queen 20% ahead of that of Ethical. They are also 5% enemy forces count ahead. So,
okay, but Perplex has to kill these parasites now. Ethical was able to pull them onto the boss by using the Rogue's extremely long arms to attack through the wall. So there's a little bit of advantage being made back up there. You're right, though, that Perplex is definitely ahead. Oh, they pulled a Thug through the floor somehow. That is a Tol Dagor special.
There's a Croc, too. But it doesn't really matter because they're just going to run all the way through here. They're going to meld off combat from all those mobs that they had. And I would look to see a very similar thing here coming out from Ethical.
Yeah, Ethical are going to do the sap, and they will be pulling that Thug and just melding later, I believe. There's an option there for the Rogue to pull to the side and vanish later. That's something you'll see in live key settings, but here with access to the quintuple Shadow Meld, that ends up generally just being better. And it looks like Perplexed is actually going to be doing a trash pull in this area, whereas Ethical opening the cages and also doing a trash pull in this area. Okay, opening the cages is something you get access to much more easily with that Rogue. Much faster time on casting that. You can see Perplexed is doing it as well as Amok there, overdoing it with the scrolls, but that is a much longer cast time. All of them actually going to each one.
Oh, I actually really like this from Perplexed. So if you're going to do a pull down in this area, you may as well just open up the cages so you can get your buffs. We saw Goosey Bad run a Rogue in this dungeon earlier on, and they forewent making a pull in this area and forewent getting those buffs. So they just plowed on all the way through. I'm not sure if either strategy is better or worse, but there definitely is a difference between the two. So right now, look at the difference in enemy forces count. Perplexed is at 37, while Ethical is at 29. Do you think that's going to really
fully buffed? Well, so here's the thing, right? Ethical's comp allows them to pull more with the cannons, is the theory.
Yeah.
So if they can successfully execute that first cannon pull with 20% more trash or whatever, then they didn't lose anything here. It's not going to take them any more time to kill that much trash because it all just dies to the cannons. But if that doesn't work out for them, then yeah, they're in massive, massive trouble.
Absolutely. Perplexed is taking up the Blood of the Corruptor up towards that Jess Howlis area. I suspect that they're about to get ready to engage Jess Howlis through the wall. Probably Zamak with Chi Burst or something like that.
That's usually the way that teams do this. Yeah, you can see Zamak going over there, fires that Chi Burst through the wall, and overcomes Jess Howlis. And they're actually pulling this in with some trash right at the start.
Okay, so since they are Alliance, they have pulled on top of these Sea Speakers. That means that Watery Dome cast is significantly more... it's more important that they do get a kick on that, and Divine is just going to need to be able to fully tank out those Salt Blasts. Also, something that you just noticed there is a Shine ends up popping his Turtle. Swag also ends up using his immunity. They end up just full tanking those...
The Flashing Daggers.
What is it? The Flashing Daggers. I was about to call it Flashettes, but that's not the correct name for it. The Flashing Daggers. Honestly, pretty sick play coming out of Perplexed there to be able to phase Jess Howlis.
Yeah, very cool. I was surprised to see them fight him over there, but they decided, you know what, we'll just have, we'll have Wolf Disco tank that, and everybody who has an immunity immune it, and, we'll be fine. And they were fine. So, a great way to make it so that you don't have to worry about those casters pathing over here if you try to pull them to the line of sight spot. Ethical, on the other hand, have yet to phase Jess Howlis, but they are doing a similarly large pull here at the start with those casters. Ooh, unfortunately, that is going to be a cast going through for the Watery Dome. They are playing Alliance, so they don't have access to that Arcane Torrent ratio. It's going to have to be individual purges from Skylark on the priority targets.
Or Aerie. Aerie does have that Spirit Beast out. You can actually see it. You can get an individual purge.
That's
from
true.
The Spirit Beast pet. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they just let the Watery Dome go through with the double purge, but this seems suspect sometimes, right?
It's kind of weird.
It is incredibly strange. I will admit. All right. So now look at Perplexed. So Bobby is starting to get pretty low here, just by virtue of Wolf Disco doing an insane amount of damage to all targets at once. Do you think that they're going to kill Bobby as well, just to be able to get out of combat quicker, or do you think it's or do you think it's purely a byproduct of?
So it depends on what their next strategy is. If they're just going to pop Sky Steps and run through, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you're in combat or not. That just affects whether or not you're on the pre-pot CD, and so it's probably not worth killing Bobby.
Okay, Bobby's definitely not going to die here.
If your goal is to actually go into Ny'alotha next, I think then, if Bobby's like sub 50%, it's actually faster to just kill him than wait for him to drop combat. But yeah, you can see they don't care about being in combat here. They're just going to run right through, and they will deal with the consequences of missing out on one extra potion throughout the dungeon.
Yeah, so the call is definitely just do not combat potion Jess Howlis under any circumstances. Just really make sure that if you're even going to potion him once, make sure it's a pre-pot. Because if you combat potion there, you're going to just get left behind.
Yeah, interestingly, that potion interaction is going to be changing in Shadowlands. I don't know if you saw this, but they're changing it so that combat potions versus non-combat it's no longer going to be relevant. But for right now, that is still a mechanic that we have in the game, and that is it definitely makes it a very, very unfortunate event if you accidentally use a potion in combat when you weren't supposed to, because you just kind of know that you're going to be in trouble whenever the time comes that you're supposed to use a potion.
Yeah, that change will definitely be interesting to see how it's going to be used. All right, so Ethical is downing Jess Howlis here. Perplexed has already set up their pull near the cannon area. You do see that binding shot coming out, rooting all of those mobs.
That is beautiful. Beautiful combination of Ring of Peace, binding shot, and everything. And that is just a great-looking cannon section from Perplexed. Everything dying. I guess there's a little bit stuff in the back there that didn't quite go down. Is that one mob? Okay, not perfect, but pretty close.
Look at the trash differential. I mean, so Perplexed, whenever they start their cannon pull, they were at 52% trash count. Ethical was at 47. So they're really not going to be able to make up as much from the cannons as we would have initially thought, right?
Yeah, Ethical should be able to get enough count, but they're just going to reach the same point that Perplexed did here. They're not going to. I mean, there's no way to get ahead, right? You're at this point in the dungeon where Perplexed is. It's all the same pulls, no matter which team you are, pretty much.
So technically, you could have came up to this area with 30% enemy forces count and pulled like the whole entire area to be able to finish off your enemy forces. But I wonder how much Ethical is going to grab here, because at this point they need to be able to skip one full pull over Perplexed to be able to catch back up in terms of time and basically give value to this Vengeance Demon Hunter that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're really going to be able to do that here. That they're just going to be pulling, a moderately sized cannon pull. Obviously, it's still a very scary thing to fight, but out come the Sigil of Silence, then there'll be a Sigil of Chains, followed by a Sigil of Misery and a boatload of cannon shots.
Nice leg sweep.
Great move
that
there.
leg sweep was sick.
Oh, the Sigil of Misery comes out. Beautiful timing on that as well. And this is going to be 4 cannon shots, I think, to kill almost everything. Ooh, 1 Marine barely lives there, but I think they have an extra shot even in that cannon. So great play from Ethical so far. They are now moving to catch up here. They're going to do the next cannon section. They're grabbing a bunch of enemies. Ooh, Skylark getting dropped low. Does have that Last Resort available, though, if something were to go horribly wrong.
So let's denote a couple things here about Ethical strat. One, they killed Samrak, Beckoner of Chaos. Perplex is electing to kill Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes. So that'll be the difference in the obelisk. 2, Skylark actually saved a Sigil of Chains there, and now it comes to Sigil of Chains here for Ethical. You do see Arrow popping in that cannon.
There's that Last Resort from Skylark.
Popping. Yeah,
that's where it's for, though.
Totally fine. Yeah, totally fine to be used here.
And they just need to kill all this stuff rapidly before too many explosives overwhelm them. They've done a pretty good job here. So yeah, they're actually not far behind here. It looked like they were an obelisk behind, but they actually had earned that obelisk earlier. So yeah, they're going to be fighting a different 2 awakened enemies with the last boss. They're going to be fighting Urgroth and Malthier rather than Samrek and Malthier, which is what Perplexed will be fighting.
15% enemy forces count behind now. So this is exactly what we were talking about in terms of how Ethical needed to be able to do their cannons to catch up quickly. I felt like their cannon play was what we have come to expect out of this team, and that is ultimately how they are continuing to stay in this match. Perplexed, though, definitely in the lead.
Yeah, Perplexed in the lead by 10%
way better boss
of
damage
Knight
comp,
Captain
too.
Valerie's health. Well, it is so
Rogue
it's
versus
good
Hunter.
boss damage. Yes. I don't know, Hunters are kind of a liability on that last boss fight, though. There's a lot going on that is kind of negative for them, whereas Rogues are pretty effective at cleaving there, and they are very good defensively on that last fight as well. That could make that fight a lot easier for Ethical to deal with, so... I'm not sure who I like here. Look at this. Ethical is actually catching up as well.
Ethical's starting to catch up.
Yeah, so there's 5% magic damage granted by Skylark, but Skylark getting massively out DPS by Divine. Looks like it might just be a case of Shape blasting Wolf Disco out of the water here on this single target on this boss. May have had some more cooldowns available for it.
It's hard to say. Like there's always so every offensive CD is very well calculated here. Wolf Disco may have just used all of his offensive CDs on the obelisk, on the Urgroth, because it was going to be something more of like a filler mob, and they didn't believe that the damage on Valeri is to be very important. Perplex is starting to get a little bit of a damage lead here.
Yeah, Hunters are back
with
to their
just
aspects.
slightly. Look at this, slight better barrel management means higher melee uptime on Valeri. Ethical having to run around the room kind of frantically getting out of that barrel. Perplexed starting to open up a lead because of their barrel movements and making sure that they were able to always have 100% uptime on that boss.
And they're now moving on to the final cannon section of the dungeon. If they can do this quickly, they will definitely be in position to have a we win for sure if we can do the last boss cleanly. Their fate is in their own hands here. If they do this all right, they should be able to win. But this is a technical portion of the dungeon, and the last boss fight is also a difficult one. This is, I think, the boss fight we see with the fewest awakened enemies possible to fight at the same time in the MDI, right? 2 only ever. That is far less than we see out of most other bosses.
So the reason for that is because the Heartstopper Venom that is natively on Overseer Corgis, he restricts your movement so heavily that you really can't fight.
Yeah, if you think
more
about
than
it,
like Blood of Corruptor is like not happening.
Mm-hmm. Blood of the Corruptor, but even Samrek and Urgroth also have movement related abilities. It's really only Malthier that's kind of free on this fight, or not free, but doesn't have added difficulty due to Heartstopper Venom.
Perplexed here has pulled Overseer Corgis. We do know that they have Samrek, Beckoner of Chaos, and Voidweaver Malthier. Honestly, very scared to ever fight Samrek, Beckoner of Chaos on this fight, so I'm looking to see how Perplexed is going to be able to deal with this.
Yeah, look at all of this damage going out.
And here comes Ethical, man. Ethical's about to pull this boss here in just a second.
Yeah, and so Ethical behind on boss health by quite a bit. Samrek has fallen for Perplexed. Ooh, Divine almost has as well, so if they're Hunters. But yeah, Ethical...
the double? Oh, no.
Ethical popped that Bloodlust, and they are now going in as well. If they hard focus Corgis, they might be able to make up, but if you hard focus Corgis, you're going to die to the awakened enemies, so it's such a difficult spot to be in for Ethical, and of course, their delay is such that they don't know exactly how far behind they are going into the last boss. do have those extra interrupts in the form of a melee kick instead of a range kick, and a Sigil of Silence, which does work as a one-time interrupt.
Yes. However, the Sigil of Silence is
Divine dies for
placed.
Perplexed. They get him up. Oh, they have that Death Knight, so that is an instant
The
cast
Wolf
battle
Disco res, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming in clutch.
That is good. That is 5 seconds, though, on the clock for Perplexed. That could be relevant here at the end of this fight.
They're absolutely more than 5 seconds ahead, but if there are any other deaths that come out, I would be extremely concerned.
Oh, Swag gets stunned.
Is Swag gonna get hit by the cannon? Oh,
No, he's fine.
Okay,
His stun
Swag's
is expired. He's fine at that. Oh my goodness, a shine.
A shine?
A shine
Oh.
at 15%. Getting blasted
here comes the
with
Exil.
heals by Zamak. Whoa. Oh, things are getting terrifying over on the right-hand side of the screen here on Perplexed. Look at their health bars move.
Oh, look at the
that
cannon. Oh.
That is an unfortunate aim of that cannon. Swag again sub 20%. Does manage to survive, but this is taking everything that they have to survive this boss fight. Just a little bit longer and they'll be able to kill it. But it is on a knife's edge here. Zamak, I imagine, quite low on mana at this point as well.
So a big deal with Overseer Corgis is the ability to be able to tank Deadeye shots. Hunters can actually feign death the Deadeye shot if the buff is below 15 seconds and not cause a double, but Perplexed has had a lot of doubles here. They're going to be able to down Overseer Corgis, but holy moly, that was scary.
Whew. Close first game. Does go to Perplexed, though.
Oh my goodness, I was on the edge of my seat with some of those deaths at the very end, but Perplexed does end up taking the win.